Hey, this is the Eat to Live podcast. I am here with my dad, Dr. Furman.
Hi, everybody. And I'm here with my daughter, Jenna. And today we're going to talk about emotional wisdom and happiness to a degree, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you always hear that stress is really bad for you. So we're going to get into that. How does emotional health play into the nutritarian diet and making healthier food choices? Which actually, it might contribute more to that than one would think.
Right, because we're saying that there's a large emotional component and it takes an incredible amount of emotional wisdom to be able to be comfortable eating healthfully in today's world.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think earlier in your career, you were always looking at the scientific evidence in the literature about nutrition, saying this makes so much sense. People could just do this and reverse their diseases and reach their ideal weight and it's perfect. Go on your way. And then at some point you stopped and you said, why can some people do this and some people really struggle?
I think you're right, because I think that I always knew that it would be for a segment of society, right? But I kind of thought that when people got a lot of information and really knew all the answers and reviewed all the literature and were thoroughly exposed to all the proper logical scientific arguments, then the majority of people would choose to live in this healthful manner that I'm recommending. And I found that it wasn't quite as easy as that.
Why do you think only a specific segment would hear you out in the nutrition?
You know, I never figured it out 100%, because a lot of individual personalities and individuals, their backgrounds. But most of my life now, and reviewing and studying the people that did not succeed and the people that succeed, we found the major reason had to do with person's ability to need the approval of other people and to let peer pressure and their social connections control what they eat to a degree. So they weren't confident enough to be different and to be able to have the self-esteem necessary to be able to withstand the disapproval of other people who don't like the way you're eating or don't approve of the way you're eating because you're doing something different than they're doing.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the word confidence, because I feel like you hear about it everywhere. I mean, watching The Bachelorette and all they talk about is he's so confident, she's so confident. You hear it as this trait to really be admired, and no one really talks about what's admirable about it. How do you gain confidence? Is it cockiness? Is it too much ego? Is it not enough ego? What is it? And I think we're also starting to realize that a lot of these unhealthy eating choices, or a lot of these people who have a tendency to emotional eat or binge, really have an early experience that derails their confidence.
Yes.
Early on.
That's not only a true statement. I think we should say that again, because the scientific literature describes that, particularly with people that have had inconsistency of parental love, because the right type of parental love is unconditional. No matter what the child does, you're always on behind them, loving them. Even when they do something wrong, it's trying to show them what's right, but still showing them you love them.
Right.
And when love becomes conditional, or children don't consistently get the approval of their parents, they're more likely to grow up seeking approval from other people in a way that's out of proportion and no longer healthy, because they're no longer feel confident in their own self-esteem, so they have to get it from the outside sources of self-esteem, even in superficial ways, which interferes with the person's ultimate happiness and makes them more argumentative, easily stressed, easily annoyed, bothered by other people.
And turn to food.
And less comfortable with themselves. So these people who almost feel that they have this external need for self-approval, and trying to feel in some way that they're superior or ego-generated, right? They themselves actually don't feel good about themselves on a deeper level, and they turn to food, addictions, drinking, and other things, and even power, and control over others, and even can be abusive to others, as a means of building their own ego up, because they've disconnected themselves. In a sense, this drive, the ego's drive for importance, and utilizing the approval of others to gain its importance, makes you feel more disconnected from other people, less compassionate, and less ability to feel this deep kind of love and emotions that leads to long-term happiness and takes the stress out of your life. So to de-stress, you have to lose the ego.
And I'm also going to say what you just said in another way, because I think it's really interesting. So you're supposed to, everyone tells you that you should be really confident. A lot of people aren't, because a lot of people don't have ideal childhoods.
Right.
And then they're feigning confidence in all the wrong ways. So you're seeking approval. You want other people to tell you you're good looking or smart or the best or
Right.
winning or, amazing. You want to be able to brag about yourself, when to us, I think, and to people, I hope they start to, if you take a minute to stop, you can realize confidence is just being okay with being who you are, okay being in the one of the pack, okay with trying something new and failing, just okay with
making mistakes.
Okay with mediocrity.
Mediocrity.
Mediocrity. Thank you.
Okay with mediocrity.
Just being a member of society.
Well, let me what I've learned and studied, and I should say that I didn't come to all these opinions on myself. I studied a lot of philosophy, psychology, aesthetic realism, and lately Buddha-based wisdom, and Mom's studying that too.
Dr. Furman, the philosopher.
Yeah, I've incorporated a lot of self-help books, a lot of study in this field.
Yeah.
So I didn't invent all this myself. But in any case, what in the pop psychology world, which they say, you have to first love yourself and then you can love other people more. Mm-hmm. And that is not true, really. What I've learned is you can't tell a person to love themselves when there's no justifiable reason, and there's not enough reasons for the person to legitimately feel confident and feel confident and proud of themselves. To really feel proud of yourself and confident, there has to be reasons that the cerebral brain can think that would hold up in a French court of justice, let's say. You really have to, the body is judging itself. Your brain is, so in
You're
other words,
judging yourself.
You're judging yourself. So when people, so the question is, how can you love yourself and how can you build self-esteem internally without getting the approval of other people? That's the secret. And the secret has to do with your ability to appreciate the world around you. That's not you. Because there's the world that's your own world, which is your own body and your own mind. And then there's the world that starts where your fingertips end, the outside world. That has to do with nature, people, thoughts, books, art, education, whatever it is, right? So one is your ability to appreciate, respect, and have gratitude for the outside world.
And when you say outside world, you could even mean other people. Like, it's not just nature.
Everything that's not you.
Well, and I think people, if they wanted to take an exercise and do it, if you think of the day that you were the happiest in your entire life, top days, you think of that friend that made you pee your pants, you were laughing so hard, or that really hard hike you did. It's never something where you're just, I did that. I
accomplished,
it's someone,
I'm a big shot.
It's when these things come together and you're like, wow, maybe it's the time that you weren't thinking about yourself at all and you totally let all that go, and then you were able to experience true euphoria.
That's correct. So that's what we're trying to teach people, that if they want to build self-like that's earned and emotional happiness, they have to try to see the world, and this means other people, not just the external world, but whether you're seeing art, entertainment, music, a stranger, or nature. You're trying to, every hour that you're alive, you're looking to see things that you like and that deserve to be liked, and that we can call that a positivity bias, but it's really not a bias. It's looking and to appreciate things that deserve to be appreciated, and recognizing that nature has an aesthetic structure that is beautiful, and it's by its own. And it helps the human mind to respect and see that beauty and to appreciate the world around you. And one thing that helps people emotionally is look for things to like, bring it to your attention, instead of looking things to dislike. Because part of the ego, as a means of elevating its own superiority, because you feel superior to people, you're making less of other people, you're making less of things, you're feeling better than them, you feel other people aren't as important or valuable or special as you are. Right? So that's the ego makes you feel, that's disliking the world and having, that's a negativity bias. And looking for things to dislike or be irritated by is part of the negativity bias. And as you and I were discussing before this podcast started, that negativity bias is intertwined with the need for addictive behaviors.
Yeah, of course. And I think on the other hand, I was reading a scientific journal that was talking about people that practice more gratitude, even if you don't mean it, even if you just say, that was a really nice walk. That was a good workout. That was a really hard workout, but I enjoyed it. Oh, at least I got out of the house. If you start speaking in a positive way, it starts to rewire your brain. And on the contrary, if you start to complain a lot, that actually rewires your brain.
Absolutely.
So even if you're faking it in the beginning, it's a better practice.
Well, it's not faking it. It's I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
The person may not really see it all, but I'm saying if you have the intent, a good intent, you should be able to see legitimacy in appreciating things outside of yourself and value their and recognize their value and like it and have gratitude for it. So trying to look for great things to be grateful for, whether it's the sunset or a tree.
Yeah.
Or a flower. It's just, or I'm grateful for the bok choy on my plate because because look what that bok choy contains. All these thousands of nutrients are so good for me.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that, nature put that together. And now about so I guess that we're making a similar point that you can have an attitude that you practice, and you practice this, and you build internally generated self-esteem, and you build good emotional health by practicing liking the world outside of yourself. And I originally learned that in my 20s when I was studying aesthetic realism in New York City, about trying to like the outside world as a means of building the self. But then now in Buddhist philosophy, they have the similar thing, as that every interaction you have with another person, you can feel compassion for them, and and that compassion gives you ability to have more emotions and care and de-stresses you, because now you're no longer worried about how they offended you. You're thinking about how you could compassion for what they've gone through, the problems they've had, and how you could possibly be useful to their life in some small way. You don't have to be successful in being useful to another person. You just have to have the purpose in your mind of, okay, this person said something that I could interpret as being nasty to me, or I can interpret as being not kind to me, but that doesn't matter. What matters is I can use this as an opportunity to be kind to them and to show them I care about them in some way. And by me being kind to them, that's the best thing I can do to strengthen my emotional health. And then the person can really love themselves in a way that's true and holds up to the own body's self-scrutiny.
Yeah.
You can love yourself based on your own self-scrutiny. That's what doesn't work when you're just going after power, when you're like making less of other people, scapegoating people, looking for things to complain about. You can't feel good about yourself on a deeper level, and you feel always easily agitated, easily angered, easily upset, and easily stressed. And then you can't look at food. You can't be good at, and you got to look for other ways to get pleasure. And you have to use addictions to get addictive pleasure now, because you're not really happy with who you are on a deeper level, even though you don't know it.
I think people that self-scrutinize too, it's so easy to criticize others in 2024. I mean, you could judge people on the TV, on the internet, in your neighborhood. You could constantly talk about other people in a negative light, or you can smile at them and say good morning and not judge anyone. And that also is kind of a habit, because if you stop judging everyone else and say, oh, I like that they said that was different. They're weird and I love it. It makes the world so unique. Right. You start to accept who you are for all your special quirks and stuff. And then you could bring it to the dinner table and say, I don't have to eat like everyone else. I can be different. I can eat these vegetables. And even if people give me a weird look, that's okay. And maybe we'll get into a conversation one day about healthy living.
Right.
So it's like, that's where this confidence and self-esteem is vital to someone who wants to live really healthfully.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy. Wait, I wanted to ask you this because it circles a little bit back, but do you feel like you helped your children build confidence?
Yeah.
How?
I think that I showed them.
He's like, yes, absolutely.
I think I showed them consistent, unconditional love.
Yeah.
And even if I disagreed with them, they always knew that I loved them.
Yeah.
And I was always on their side, wanting the best for them.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I think that's something that parents should really recognize if they ever struggle to get their child to eat healthier. I mean, we fought over food growing up in ways like we always talk about this, like you didn't want us going to certain birthday parties and eating cake and pizza. It stressed you out. Did it stress you out?
Yeah, yes, to a degree. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like other parents trying to really put all the junk food on your own kids.
They really did. Yeah.
Right.
And it wasn't cool to eat healthy. So I will say that. But you would try to talk to us like we were adults when we were children and really tried to explain, like when we were rational, because I mean we were kids. When we were rational, you would try to say, hey, I'm just doing this because I love you. And I think hearing that and you showing that through our whole lives made us really come around to it.
Yeah, I think
That was, yeah.
Yeah. In other words, children have more intellectual capacity than most adults think.
Yeah.
A 5-year-old has a tremendous amount of intellectual capacity.
Yeah,
for
sure. And
And you could talk to a 5 or 6 or 7-year-old and explain everything to them, why you feel the way you feel and how this is out of love, and and they could come to their decisions and what they think is right. But people don't, a lot of parents don't give their children, they boss their children around. They feel like they know more, and they don't give their children the type of intellectual respect they need. And, because you don't understand how much, just because a child can't do trigonometry and can't speak 4 languages, doesn't mean they can't make rational decisions and weigh evidence and start to think about these things.
And
they
make
can.
a difference,
yeah,
even.
And make, yeah, exactly.
Or just help their neighbor. You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah. It's amazing what children can grasp at a young age.
Yeah, and also I think it's important that the education that you shared with us, not when we were having serious conversations or lectures. I mean, we hated being lectured by you when you would go on and on about nutrition growing up, but you would make it fun. People pay a lot for that. I'm sorry. No, I know I'm very lucky. Okay. But when we'd like pick up an orange after gymnastics and you'd be like, this is the best orange. Do you know how much, berries are good for you? Have some more. Like in the ways you gave us really little tidbits throughout our whole lives just made us really appreciate food. You liked that joke.
That's pretty good.
No, we really do appreciate it. I mean, I see in the comments all the time on our podcast how a lot of people do say and slam me for, a lot of people say in a good way, Jenna's so lucky. I wish, or she's so lucky she gets you as my dad. I get you as my dad, and that I know all this nutrition and I have it. You're inspiring, and that I have it around me all the time. Mm-hmm. But other people say I could be healthy too if I had you as a dad. Yeah. And I think I would just like to challenge, like, everyone, listen to the podcast, share it, live it, like, let us inspire you, and you can do the dang thing.
Yeah,
you could totally do it.
All right, so on this issue of, I think it's clear, we're trying to say there are certain negative influences and certain positive influences in a person's life.
Yes.
And to build a positive life based on the wisdom that's going to help you take better care of yourself, it's trying to recognize that tendency within all of us to feel we're important, where our egos have to constantly seek and get praise. Mm-hmm. And we're looking too much for other people to praise us. And that can interfere with our ability to have the right type of compassion, feeling, and emotions that build for the right emotional health. And because it's not about people praising us. That hits the soul like junk food hits the brain. It's too dopamine stimulating, and it leads to the dopamine dependence, and it leads to a dependence on constantly wanting this ever barrel of approval that never can be filled.
Yeah.
And it weakens your ability at that point to not only relate to other people and listen and be kind to them and considerate of them, but it also weakens yourself in the process. Mm-hmm. It weakens you because you don't think highly of yourself in a way that makes you truly contented, and it makes you more stressed out over little things that bother the ego. So every little thing's, that wasn't kind. I don't like the way you said that. Everything becomes something that's affecting you negatively, and it puts you under chronic stress, always looking to see if you're approved of by people around you. Mm-hmm. And that puts you under chronic stress instead of when you can remove the ego from the situation. Then you don't have to feel stressed by the way other people act. They can't stress you out.
Right.
Because you can feel that I have only one purpose at this moment, in dealing with this person. And that one purpose is how I can be compassionate to them. It doesn't matter if they're not compassionate to me. It doesn't matter if they try to hurt me. It doesn't matter if they're not giving me approval. I will feel most content with myself and most powerful if I can show them compassion, and if I can in some way use my creativity and intelligence to show them I care about them and I can help them in some way. And so what I'm saying here, every hour we can choose about how we like the outside world or not, looking for things to be positive about, and every interaction you have with another individual is an opportunity to build your own internally generated self-esteem, to build your own emotional health, to build your longevity by trying to have a purpose of in some way showing them you care or being kind to them. You've just added hours, days, weeks, and months to your own life. You've built your emotional health by every opportunity of your interaction. So you're looking to interact with people, to be able to be kind to them and compassionate. And they don't have to be kind or compassionate back to you, because that doesn't matter how they're treating you. Yeah. It matters how you're treating them. So your own happiness isn't dependent on other people. So you can't be stressed out. It's because you're in control of your own happiness, and you don't have to be stressed out by it.
Yeah, because I always say you can't control the things you can't control. And what Sean always likes to say is you don't worry twice. But it's just nice when you start engaging with other people to start making it more about the moment. Hey, what can we talk about? What can we create together? What should we come up with creatively? Or even when someone's not nice to you, to just still carry on being your nice, kind self. And so
you can still have gratitude, and you can also, when you interact with a person and there's some degree of negative interaction, you can still be, if your ego's not involved, you can still look at yourself in a way and even apologize for something that you could have done better. And when you have that, when you take away your superiority and you can apologize, then that person can look at themselves better and say to themselves, well, wow, he's apologizing for that. That wasn't even that bad. But, maybe I could do something better too. Maybe what I said wasn't so kind either. So in other words, what I'm saying is that this way of seeing it, it makes more comfort in your life. And then it makes you closer to the people you interact, closer to people, not separated from them.
Which is what it's all about.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking about lately was, I tell myself this. I say, I don't have to be perfect and I can make mistakes. It makes saying sorry and realizing saying sorry so much easier. When I'm in fights, a lot of people don't give themselves the grace to just say, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to say something. No one's perfect.
Yeah, sorry, I said that wrong.
Totally,
I didn't mean that.
Totally.
Sorry,
that wasn't my intention.
I could say that better. I take that, yeah, it's exactly.
If you take that power, it's kind of empowering.
Because we don't have to be right. And we could make mistakes, and we're not perfect, and everybody's still going to get their ego involved in some way. We're not going to, be totally perfect all the time, but we're at least looking at it and trying to do the best we can, and be willing to look at it, right? Be willing to consider it, and do better maybe, and do the best job we can do.
And when people release this emotional trauma of their heightened ego, of all this stress building up, you become a lot healthier too, because all of a sudden you're less stressed, which we know is way healthier for you. And you're also able to make decisions. Hey, I would never judge someone for that, so they shouldn't judge me, and it's fine. I can be a little picky at this restaurant and say, hey, can you do no added salt in that? Or can you make that vegan? And no one will be snickering or judging or hating me. I'm just going to say it as nice as I can. So I think a lot of people don't necessarily have the confidence to say that. And that's where they get into really sticky situations with the nutritarian diet when they dine out or they're in front of people, family members,
and we talk at this all the time with people. They say, how do we go at birthday parties? How do we do get-togethers? I feel so strange. A person made this dish. I'm not eating a birthday cake that my grandmother made for me and all this stuff. But it all
and in some cultures, it's totally rude.
Yeah, right. But it's all down to the same thing. It's showing this person how much you care about them, how much you love them, and the cake is not the issue. And if you feel good about the way you can show that care and that feeling and love and compassion for other people, then you don't have to prove to them with the way you're eating to please them.
And take your time, because a lot of people don't take the time or have the patience to also maybe have those more sit down conversations with family members explaining why they're going to eat this way and how, and you'd like their support. And if you meet them with compassion, they should surely be able to stand up for you in that moment.
They'll have been more compassionate to you back. And also, when you're strict with a diet, when you're walking the walk that you talk, then they respect you more. And then you have the ability to potentially have another person, consider or look at why you're doing this and want to know more about it. But the minute you let them pressure you into eating everything or eating anything or eating something that's no longer good for you, they have no respect for your healthy eating decisions because they see that you're wishy-washy and you've lost your ability to be a role model. You've lost your ability to impress on another person that to potentially in the future at some point maybe have them try to be willing to improve their health. So, but you're just letting yourself, so a lot of the people that have succeeded in losing 50 to 150 pounds and kept it off for like 5 years or 10 years are those people who are proud of what they've accomplished, and they feel that their identity is now as a nutritarian, and they're proud of their new nutritarian identity because they don't feel uncomfortable with it. They feel proud of it.
Mm-hmm, totally. You have to be proud of it. You have a lot of personal experience with being looked at as strange in our family even.
Yeah.
And then people getting sick and coming around to doing your diet 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you've always been a very confident man.
They first make fun of me and object to me, and then they come around and want my help and want to listen to me.
Well, for sure. Or, yeah, I don't even know make fun if I've heard that, but I've heard definitely happy they don't eat this way, and then now really happy they eat this way.
Yeah.
And you were unwavering 100%. Yeah, you've always been very good at talking the talk. You've always had a lot of confidence. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I think it was. I think it was that understanding that there's so much tragedy in the world today, both physical health and emotional health, that stems from childhood poor nutritional habits and then eating like Americans eat, that I felt it's so tragic. There's so much suffering that doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
That I can be consistently be able to reduce the suffering of myself, my family, and other people by being consistently one way about this, because it's just so prevalent. It even permeates people's behavior. And when we're talking here about emotional health, negativity and unhappiness, how that intertwines with the unhealthy diet, and the unhealthy diet magnifies that anger, that frustration, that lack of care for other people, the narcissistic tendency to want what you want right now, regardless of how it's going to affect others, the world, future generations, or, we could do anything to harm other people because the more we're narcissistically consumed with our own needs, then we can do anything that hurts others. It doesn't matter, right? And I think
and you're not even happy at the end of the
and
day.
the person's not happy, and food is intertwined with this. So
it's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle because the bad food leads to the bad thinking, and the bad thinking leads to the desire for the bad food.
Exactly. It's a very hard cycle to break.
Yeah.
And then people who do break it have to understand that's exactly what they do. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough work, but it feels so good. And then once you get into the habit, the right habits, that also is a cycle of positivity.
Yeah, that's what we do with the retreat. We cycle the eating program and we cycle the emotional wisdom simultaneously so people can build both up. And that works better that way. That's what we're talking about it today.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting is when we pair the literature with what we also see at the retreat, how we do see negativity biases at the retreat all the time. And I don't think you necessarily thought you had to address that at first. And then when you started working at the retreat with 20 guests at a time, you started saying, oh my gosh, they really start getting complaining when they're struggling with the food.
Yes, when people first come in, and especially I've seen it when people they're drinking soda and whiskey and eating junk food, and they come in and all of a sudden everything's taken away from them. And I'm noticing that they're trying to seek out things to be negative about and complain about. And it's so obvious what they're doing. Because this is not something that would bother you or me. Every little thing becomes a big issue that's really upsetting to them.
And they need extra attention, for sure. They need to talk with you. They need to sit down. They need to...
They need extra attention, yeah. And you can see how difficult it is when they're no longer relying on their addictive behaviors to de-stress. And the whole world becomes their enemy now.
And very stressful.
Stressful. And they bring the stress to other people. They put the stress on you. And they start to... And everything starts to become a major issue.
So how do you help them?
I think that we get back to this whole idea of, I know this is tough for you and this is hard to do, but this is how we get through that. And it's okay to feel bad the first couple of days, physically and emotionally. It's going to go away, and we're here to help you. And anything, and this is what you can do to help you. But you can help us help you too, and this is what you can do to help.
And this is why the retreat, you were adamant when you opened the retreat that it has to be 1 to 3 months, minimum of 1 month, because this is the hump, and people get over. You wanted to make sure that people get over the hump to then make this a part of their everyday life
and get adequate training. My original idea, of course, was 3-month stays. The only reason I do 1-month stays is because so many people can't afford or can't get away for 3 months. But I'd really love it to be 3 to 4 month stays. Let's say, what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
Because
I wanted to do less people, more time, more of my commitment to them, to make sure I can get a long-term success. Because I was, I'm very grateful for the thousands of people I've been able to have helped. That's such a blessing in my life, right?
Yeah.
But there's also, just helping one person is a blessing. And having to be able this close relationship with people over time, where you have a higher probability of helping them long term, it makes you really feel good.
Yeah, well, I think also the people at the retreat, they're not just a number to you or just a job. You do spend time getting to know them. And I think every person that comes through touches our family's lives in a way. Like, we remember people. And it's really fulfilling, it's really rewarding, and it feels really good.
You've built friendships from all over the world. It's kind of a fun thing. Not to have a place with like 300 people.
Yeah.
It's just to have a look.
Yeah. So it is special. And I feel like that is exactly walking the walk, as you say, about really helping others. And it makes you just feel good. I think you're addicted to it, helping people. You
get addicted to it. It really makes you feel good. And Mom, too, she just she just loves it because she loves the opportunity it gives her to interact with people and to have this opportunity to be able to feel useful to others. Yeah. And that helps you, helps her, helps me. You know what I mean?
She's also a social butterfly. Yeah, she loves it.
Yeah, she's liking it. So there was a couple of this research articles they wanted to. This is really good. Reading this quote, okay? The ego-centered drive to feel important, approved of, or special interferes with and blocks one's ability to be considerate to others and to be emotionally resilient. It increases one's stress in life, makes one easily angered, forever feeling slighted, discontent, and empty. So that is really interesting. That's right. You feel empty. The more you try to get other people to, wanting you to feel approved of or feel, it doesn't make you feel better. Over time, it makes you feel more easily, you keep wanting it more and more, and yet nobody could ever give you enough. And so you're always upset about not getting what you want to get, the type of approval you're looking for.
Yeah, so I think if you are struggling with emotional eating or even food addiction, or you just want to lose weight, if you start thinking about the changes you could make up here, they also will carry you beyond what's on the dinner plate. You will also be able to make lasting change if you stop seeking validation and you really start seeing your ego as not necessarily your friend, but something maybe to give a little space to.
Yeah, validation is a good word. I think it says, here's the word validation. It says, somebody seeking approval puts the power for your happiness in other people's hands, first of all.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. It's not in other people's hands. Others make you feel happy, sad, guilty, or angry when it's much healthier to develop internally generated, right? And seeking validation, not approval. Validation comes from earning the support of others, not asking for it. Mm-hmm. So we're saying that true validation that works comes from earning the support of others because you've earned it through your behaviors, but not asking for it, not expecting it.
Yeah.
But just just live it. Mm-hmm. Live it. Be that person that you validate. You don't need other people to give you approval for it. Because it validates what you're doing, validates itself.
Just emotionally, I'm so grateful because I have experienced these lessons firsthand. I don't know if everyone experienced these lessons at different times in their lives, but I think I had like a lesson in how important nature is. I had a lesson about how only I can make myself happy, and it's so empowering. I think my boyfriend when I was a teenager just cheated on me, and I had this really smart friend, and she just said, it's okay to feel upset, but only you can make yourself happy. So do something right now that makes just you happy. And I did. And I feel like that was something that was empowering throughout the rest of my life. So
don't you think that that your relationship with the opposite sex, or with sexual partners, or with people you care about in a romantic sense, even can be used in a bad way or a good way, because people could use their relationship, that person exists to stroke me and to make a fuss about me. And that's why I like them.
Or they're rich, so I'm better.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they drive a fancy car. They're the high school cheerleader. They're the high school guy of the football team.
Yeah.
Right. We've learned that through our socialization process, that we're using this other person to glorify our own egos,
right.
and it doesn't lead to good emotional happiness. It's almost the formula for failure, because you're looking for other people to get more approval of yourself, and really, it's what we're hoping was more emotionally healthy is two people are caring about each other in a way that shows a depth, and trying to understand each other and want to be useful to each other's lives in a permanent way that can, so it's different than just using the other person to like build your own ego up. Another person is worthless to you if they don't support you and they don't approve of you anymore. They're a worthless individual, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just funny. You just made me think. It's like the artificial factors in relationships, just like artificial foods that trick you into being happy or trick you into living a full life, and they'll never make you happy. They'll never make you feel good. They'll never make you healthy.
That's right. You're right. People think, oh, well, I can't eat that. I got to enjoy what I'm eating, and they don't understand it. In the long term, you may enjoy it for a second, but in the long term, it's not going to make you more happy, make you less happy. The same thing with emotions. You go after Facebook likes, keep posting, keep wanting people to like you all the time, and you feel good for the moment, but it makes you more emotionally empty.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And that's what you call, don't you say that's like a quick gratification or
instant gratification? Instant
gratification. Yeah. That whenever it's something that's instant gratification, whether it's the junk food that had the Frankenfoods that have all this sugar, or the quick Facebook like, some things will have so much more meaning if they're not that dopamine rush, but they're that dopamine over a period of time in a healthy way.
Absolutely. So we're equating the dopamine rush from caloric rush from fast food and the dopamine rush from looking for other people to make a big fuss about you. And it's the same emptiness you get in the long term from going after those instant gratification, as opposed to things that build up long-term happiness and long-term emotional health.
You know what I want your thoughts on too, which is kind of interesting. So the Olympics are going on right now, obviously. You see some Olympians like scream and carry on if they messed up, and your heart goes out to them. They've worked so hard for this moment. And then you watch some Olympians that are just like so cool and collected. Do you think Olympians have egos or just really obsessed with their sport and it makes them feel alive?
Both. Definitely. Because I was there, right?
Yeah.
I competed there. And I look back on my skating career, and I'm saying I put myself through so much needless stress. I was so agitated. I was so nervous. I didn't sleep for weeks worrying about the competition or worrying about what was going on. I was unable to enjoy the sport, because instead of realizing that this is a sport where people can enjoy watching us as entertainment, and we could perform and entertain the audience and entertain the world at large with what we've practiced and learned. And if we make a mistake or come in second, third, sixth, or first, it doesn't even make the big difference, because we developed some skill, we're bringing it forth to the world, it's bringing people entertainment and enjoyment in their life, and we're going to, in return, feel good about ourselves. But instead, we had to be number one. Instead, I had to win. It was all about whether I was going to get a medal, or whether it was going to, or how high, whether somebody's going to beat you or not. It completely interfered with the ability to enjoy the process, because I loved moving fast on the ice, jumping in the air, throwing my sister through the,
you have to enjoy the sport.
The sport was enjoyable. Good. You knew you were bringing other people pleasure because it was aesthetically pleasing for them to watch it. And it was a good thing to do, but the stress we had to put on ourselves to be that competitive lessened our potential for it. Because once we turned pro and stopped competing, and I just skated for our own personal enjoyment and to perform in shows, then we enjoyed it so much more. There was no stress involved with having to beat anybody, and you can just get pleasure from doing what we love to do from being a great skater. And so you put an undue pressure on yourself. The ego makes it so it becomes overly stressful. You could just go out there,
give it your best.
Give it your best. Feel good about your ability to do good at what show off what you've worked on and what you developed in this field. And wherever the judges put you, and however you come out with other person, that's okay, because if this other person's great and better than you, I can enjoy them too. I can enjoy their performance too. I could slap them on the back and say, wow, you worked so hard and you improved so much. That was so beautiful to watch you do that. But instead you're trying to hope the other person does bad so you can beat them. Yes, I learned from it, but it wasn't all good experience.
Yeah, and I think I'm taken by some of the athletes, this is just me watching on the TV, so who even knows if I'm right. But I'm taken with the people who look like they don't care where they place, but they have to compete because they're so obsessed with the sport. And I think that is a really cool feeling, because that's, again, what we're talking about of they're so obsessed with something outside of themselves, like the sport,
and what you've accomplished, what you could do. But it's not about trying to make less of other person, because you could appreciate what they're doing too, and what you're doing.
I feel like you see that in some people.
We see that in some people.
It's like remarkable.
They appreciate the competitors. Yeah. They clap. They think they're like sharing in the beauty of the sport, and not just where they came in the competition.
I think those are the fan favorites, and I think there's a book, Ego is the Enemy, and I think. Some people do really like being competitive or like going for the sport, or sometimes that round of applause feels good. Like I'm getting married, next week. And I feel like it will be cool to have all the people I love in one place. I don't need to be celebrated to the nth degree, but it is cool that I'm just really grateful that they're all coming for me. So
it's grateful, but you're right. Weddings can be taken to an extreme as well.
I think about this all the time.
They push the women.
Yeah,
it's like
all eyes on me. I'm like, I don't know if I can handle that.
It's built up to a point of made to show off, or too much. Overly too.
Well, it's made me think a lot about looks are really emphasized, and look at me is very emphasized. So even recognizing these things and seeing just remembering what's important and stuff helps it keep in check. So I still ask myself, is all ego bad? Is it? So food for thought, but definitely good to keep it in check.
I think you're right. It's good to keep it down and to look at it constantly. I mean, to keep aware of this tendency but none of us are going to be perfect, and it's okay, right? Because we're trying to do the best we can.
Yeah.
At least we're aware of these tendencies. All right, let's see if there's anything we left out that was okay. Let me finish with some important steps.
Oh, I haven't heard these before.
Accomplish something worthwhile to be useful for humanity is a build of reducing stress in your own life. So let's just say, number 1, protect people in need. Number 2, protect or help the health of the earth. These are ways people can learn to like and love themselves more. Number 3, leave a legacy of love and care of those you have done good for. Number 4, productivity to develop or contribute to something other can like or be entertained by or contribute to another person's happiness. That means if you're a movie producer or a songwriter, you're contributing to other people that they can like things. And many other examples can be given, of course. And you strive to be the best version of yourself and take the best care of your own health to have the most positive power, the best effect you can have on humanity, other people, and the earth combined. So you live and you have, so this gives people passion in life, a reason to wake up excited about living each day, and a drive to be the best version of themselves and to be the healthiest version of themselves for what they can accomplish.
And I think you don't have to set magnanimous goals. You can write a terrible short story or help someone by just giving a friendly smile and good morning. That could really change people's day. It doesn't have to be these lofty things that make a difference. They really add up and change the way you live.
That's an important point to end on, and is that it's your purpose in trying to do something that's useful, and it doesn't have to affect 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people. It could affect one person, and it doesn't have to have a positive effect. As long as your purpose was to have was to think, you have purpose, so you're good about your purpose, about what you're trying to do. You don't have to be successful at it. It's just even the attempting to do the right thing is beneficial. So all these things are good, and even what you're saying right now, even the smallest amount, it's still good.
Because I think we both believe the mind is really powerful, and you need it on your side if you're going to eat to live.
That's great. Okay, so
you like that last line? I'm proud of it.
Love it.
Okay, that was a fun conversation. I keep wanting to call you the love doctor, but as my dad, I feel like that's weird.
Good. Thank you. Well, wishing everybody much happiness and success in your own life.
Absolutely. We wish you the most happiness in the entire world. Thanks for listening.